Okay, all right. Okay, so we are on chapter 11. In my book is page 95. And this chapter describes the three most advanced of the 9 main processes of devotional service. So does anybody want to tell me what are the 9 processes of devotional service?
Yes, Prabhu. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanavedanam.
Very good. Thank you. Actually, let me just do this also. View speaker. Okay, that's better. All right. So in this chapter, we're going to talk about 3 of the 9 processes. Basically, Dasyam, which is servitorship, Sakhyam, which is friendship, and Atmanivedanam, which means complete surrender. So we'll talk about these 3. Would somebody like to start? The servitorship? Nobody wants to start? Is it too short? Okay. Go ahead.
I can do it. Sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah. Servitorship. In the opinion of the karmis, fruit workers, offering the results of karma is called servitorship. But according to Vaishnava acharyas like Rupa Goswami, servitorship means constant engagement in some kind of service to the Lord.
Right. So basically, it will get explained a little bit in more detail later on. But what the first paragraph is telling us that there are 2 divisions or subdivisions, if you want to use the word, of servitorship. One is called karmarpanam, which means basically offering the results of our activities to the Lord. And second is kankaryam, which means serving in the mood of personal attendant. Kankaryam comes from the word kinkar. Kinkar means servant. And so we'll talk about in more detail of these 2. So if somebody wants to read the next paragraph, which talks about the karmarpanam, which is offering the results of our activities. So Aditi, if you want to continue, that's fine. Only if you
Yes,
want to.
Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu. I was just yes.
Okay, go ahead.
In the Skanda Purana, it is said that those who are attached to ritualistic activities, the 4 orders of social life and the 4 orders of spiritual life, are considered devotees. But when devotees are actually engaged in offering service to the Lord directly, these must be Bhagavatas or pure devotees. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities or prescribed duties according to the 4 orders of social and spiritual life are not actually pure devotees. But still, because they are offering the results to the Lord, they are accepted as devotees. When one has no such desire but acts spontaneously out of love of God, such a person must be accepted as a pure devotee. The conditioned souls who have come into contact with the material world are all more or less desirous of lording it over material nature. The system of an ashram and the prescribed duties under this system are so designed that the conditioned soul may enjoy in the material world according to his desire for sense gratification and at the same time gradually become elevated to spiritual understanding. Under these prescribed duties of Varna and Ashrama, there are many activities which belong to devotional service in Krishna consciousness. Those devotees who are householders accept Vedic ritualistic performances as well as prescribed duties of devotional service because both are meant for satisfying Krishna. When householder devotees perform some Vedic ritualistic duties, they do so to satisfy Krishna. As we have previously discussed, any activity aiming at the satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead is considered devotional service.
Right, right. So basically, it's talking about, as I was mentioning before, karma arpanam, which means offering was the result of one's activities to the Lord. But we have to understand that here there's a very clear distinction being made between devotees and pure devotees. And often in our purport, the Srila Prabhupada has written, the distinction is not made very clear. And Prabhupada typically just uses the word devotee, meaning pure devotee, and a lot of people get confused. So here, the distinction is being made very clear. What's the difference between a devotee and pure devotee? Or one of the differences, I should say. So here, karmarpanam means performing activities and offering the results of those activities to the Lord. Now, this is obviously for people who are either karmis, which means they have into fruitive activities, or they have what's called soft faith, komal shraddha. In other words, their faith is not very strong yet. They don't yet understand that bhakti in itself is sufficient and independent in the sense that it doesn't depend on anything else. If you do bhakti, you don't need to do anything else. So therefore, these people not understanding that point, they're not yet prepared to give up their varnashram activities. Simply because they're not prepared to give up sense gratification until this time. However, varnashram is still good in that it brings you up from the animal level to human level. So it's good in that sense. I should make the point that these people we're talking about, they still have some faith. They have some devotional service, and that's why they're being called devotees. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But nobody's saying they're not devotees. But there is a difference that we'll discuss a little bit later on. So these people perform the duties of varnashram as well as some of the duties of devotional service. So they're kind of mixed in that sense. Okay, so that's one point. And we'll also read later on that some teachers, especially Rupa Goswami, does not accept these people as pure devotees. And we'll discuss that in a bit. Let's see what other point I want to make. Okay. The point actually, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, this is the spiritual master of Srila Prabhupada, makes the point that this is, I think, one of his purports in Brahma Samhita, that offering the results of one's activities is Gana dharma. Gana means secondary or subsidiary devotional activities. It's not pure devotional activities because they're not directly bhakti. They are indirectly bhakti, but they're conducive to devotional service. So they lead you to devotional service later on in life. Okay. Any questions? I hope this was not confusing.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please, of course.
So for those of us who are householders and living in this age of Kali, in this material world where, for example, people have to work. And so this is an activity, if we do that in service to Krishna, it is devotional service. But are you saying that because it's not, maybe I missed it, it's not necessarily direct, and so it's not, like, in other words, could a pure devotee have a job in the material world and still offer that to Krishna? And is that pure bhakti or no?
Yeah. So you made a very good points. Let me just, oh, by the way, Sujata Mataji was asking, where are we? So in chapter 11, and we're just discussing a second paragraph on page 95 in my book. It may be a little bit different in yours, but it's the beginning of chapter 11, second paragraph. Oh, sorry, first paragraph. Just finish first paragraph.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
I will start the classes, that's why I don't know.
Sure, no worries, no worries. So Radha Bhakti, coming back to your question, the direct service is like things like chanting, cooking for Krishna in the Radharani's kitchen, hearing directly Srimad Bhagavatam, those are direct services. Indirect services we're calling where we have a job, for example, and we make a salary and we donate all a part of it to the temple for service of Krishna. So that's basically the difference between direct and indirect. As I was saying, some people say they're both devotional service. Some teachers like Rupa Goswami say, no, the first one is not, because they say it's not pure devotional service, therefore it's not devotional service. So let's just go with the point that in our, let's say, lower standards than Rupa Goswami, we'll call it devotional service, but it's not direct devotional service. Your last question was, so can pure devotees do work in the material world? So yes, they can. And that's where the concept of Yukta Vairagya comes in, where they are performing their services, and but considering all of them to be a grace, by the grace of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya actually was asked the same question in a slightly different way by Rupa Goswami before he resigned his job as the finance minister of the Nawab. And he said, I don't want to do service because I want to do service to the Lord, service to you. And Lord Chaitanya gave a very good example. He said, the example he gave was that a married woman, and so don't take this wrong way, and it doesn't apply to our lives. But the example he gave was, consider a married woman who's in love with somebody else. So she serves the husband as nicely as she can, but all the time she's thinking about her lover. So in the mundane sense, that's horrible. But in the spiritual sense that Lord Chaitanya was talking about, that's the example where, yes, you are in the world doing worldly things, but you're not doing worldly things because your mind is on Krishna. So as long as you consider everything to be a grace of Krishna, everything belonging to Krishna, you're executing Krishna's plan, whatever you're doing, then that's still a devotional service, pure devotional service. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, then let's keep going. So in the second paragraph, basically similar points were made that Aditi just finished reading. Just the point is that this distinction being made between devotees and pure devotees. Okay, let's go to the next paragraph, which is on the next page, right on the top.
May I, Prabhuji?
Please do, yes.
Srila Rupa Goswami describes one who is fit for becoming engaged in devotional service. He sees that person who are neophytes and neophytes, yes, and who have developed a little love of Godhead are not interested in the activities of sense gratification in proportion to their devotion. But if there is still some attraction for sense gratification activities, then the results of such activities should be offered to Krishna. This is also called an engagement in the service of the Lord, with the Lord as the master and the worker as the servant.
Right. So yeah, basically, again, same point is being repeated, that if you still can't give up sense gratification, then offer the results of your activities to Krishna. It's also very consistent with the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, fix your mind upon me. You can't do that. Follow the regulative principles of the devotional service. If you can't do that, then offer the results of your activities to me. So same thing. Fixing your mind on Krishna's pure devotional service, again, observing the rules and regulations, your sadhaka level. And if you can't even do that, then you're the level that we're talking about, where you are offering the results of your activities. So Krishna is basically saying the same thing in the chapter 12 of Bhagavad Gita. Okay? Any questions? All right. Then the next paragraph talks about serving, direct service, which is Kainkaryam, the serving in the mood of personal attendant. So would somebody like to read that?
I can read it.
Well, go ahead.
In the Naradiya Purana, that one, right?
Yeah.
there is a statement of how this servitorship is transcendental. It is said there that a person who is constantly engaged in devotional service by his body, mind, and words, or even a person who is not practically engaged but is simply desiring to be so, is considered to be liberated.
Yeah, so an amazing point that many of us probably don't realize. So if you read this again, it says a person who's constantly engaged in the devotional service by his body, mind, and words, or even a person who's not practically engaged but simply desiring to be so, is considered to be liberated. So remember, we always talk about eagerness is main ingredient. Krishna Darshan Lalasa, the desire to see Krishna. So the same point is being made here, that even if you just have the desire, but yet sincere desire, you're considered liberated. And actually, there is a wonderful verse in quoted in the Club of Devotion, but I can't remember which Upanishad is from, but it goes something like Ihayasya Harer Dasya Mansa Karmanagriya Niklashu Api Avasthashu Jivan Mukta Sauchite. So basically it says that a person who is serving Krishna by body, mind, and activities, he is considered liberated even in this life, while he's still alive in this world. Don't have to die to become liberated. So actually, yeah, it's also quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, I think chapter 11, text 89 or something like that. Anyway, this basically illustrates that Kankaryam, or the serving in the mood of personal attendance, is constant engagement in Krishna's service, engaging everything, our mind, our body, our words, in Lord's personal service. So that's the difference. In one, you're offering the results of activities. In second, you're directly performing all the services using your body, mind, and speech. So, and the point also is not to be forgotten, not to be missed, is that we're talking about in the mood of servant, sort of servitorship. So both these points are in the mood of servant. Okay. And sometimes the activities may be the same. So like you may be serving somebody, serving Krishna. They may look similar, but the intended audience or intended master is different. Okay. All right. Any questions or comments? All right. So let's talk about next one, which is devotional service in friendship. Somebody would like to read that?
I can do, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
Devotional service in friendship. Devotional service in friendship can be divided into two categories. The first is to act as the confidential servant of the Lord, and the other is to act as the well-wisher of the Lord. The devotee who has confidence in devotional service to the Lord systematically follow the rules and regulations, with the faith that he will achieve the platform of transcendental life. The second type of devotion of friendship is to become a well-wisher of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord accepts a preacher as the most dear servant. Anyone who is preaching the confidential message of Gita to the people in general is so dear to Krishna that no one can be equal to him in human society.
Right. So now they're talking about two divisions of people who are serving in the mood of friendship. Now I should point out that here we're not talking about the friendship of the kind that the Gopas of Vrindavan had. We're talking about the sadhakas, so people like us. And so two categories are being defined. One is where one acts as the confidential servant of the Lord, considering the Lord to be the well-wisher. And the second one is serving the Lord, considering themselves to be the well-wisher of the Lord. So see the difference? In one, the devotee is considering my Lord is my well-wisher. Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, as Krishna says in 529. Bhagavad Gita. Second category says, no, I am the well-wisher of the Lord. And we'll talk about it in more detail. But huge difference, right? So, again, we're talking about people of, sorry, go ahead. Any question here? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought somebody had a question. All right. So let's talk about the second type. Go ahead. Sorry. Mataji, can you mute yourself, please? Yeah. Somebody wants to read the second paragraph?
I can read probably.
Sorry, I just want to make another point. Sorry, I forgot. The second type of devotional service is being described in the first paragraph is, as I was saying, becoming the well-wisher of the Lord. The word for that actually, Sanskrit word is mitra. So mitra, I'm sure most of you are familiar with that word. It's Sanskrit and Hindi word. It means a friend, but a friend is also a well-wisher.
No.
So if you recall, in chapter 18, text 69, Krishna talks about Nacha tasmat manushya kashin me prikritama, talking about people who are explaining Bhagavad Gita to other people. And he's saying, there's no one more dear to me than that person, nor will there ever be a person more dear to me than that person. So basically, Krishna is saying that person, that devotee is my mitra. He's my well-wisher. So, very, very, very interesting, Krishna acknowledging the preachers to be his well-wisher. Okay, in other words, a preacher is a mitra to Krishna. And of course, as you know, ordinarily, we all see Krishna as our well-wisher, but the preachers become Krishna's well-wisher. Because Krishna consciousness can raise us to that level where we are actually well-wisher of Krishna. I thought that was a very, very interesting point. Okay, any questions or comments before we move to the next paragraph?
Prabhuji,
Huh.
When we talk about Sakhyam, we cannot be at that level. We still are the servants, right?
We still are.
Okay.
We will always be servants, but the mood can be there where we are following in the footsteps of somebody who's a Sakha or Mitra.
Okay.
Okay. It will become more clear. As we go on, it will become more clear. Okay. Anybody else? All right. So who would like to read the next paragraph?
I can probably.
Please go ahead.
In the Mahabharata, Draupadi says, "My dear Govinda, your promise is that your devotee can never be vanquished. I believe in that statement, and therefore, in all kinds of tribulations, I simply remember your promise, and thus I live." The purport is that Draupadi and her 5 husbands, the Pandavas, were put into severe tribulations by the cousin brother Duryodhana, as well as by others. The tribulations were so severe that even Bhishmadev, who was both a lifelong brahmachari and a great warrior, would sometimes shed tears thinking of them. He was always surprised that although the Pandavas were so righteous and Draupadi was practically the goddess of fortune, and although Krishna was their friend, still they had to undergo such severe tribulations. Though the tribulations were not ordinary, Draupadi was not discouraged. She knew that because Krishna was their friend, ultimately they will be saved.
Right. So that is what you call faith. Draupadi was a kind of devotee who saw the Lord as her friend, but also her well-wisher and protector. So the example of the first kind of a devotee who's serving in the mood of a friend, but considers the Lord to be her protector. As a matter of fact, those of you who are familiar with the prayer of apology, prayer for asking for forgiveness from offenses, Mr. Krishna, they may remember this line, Pratigya tav govindana me bhakta punashati, iti sasmate pranam sandharmyaham. Basically, it was translated here. My dear Govinda, you promised that your devotee will never be vanquished. I believe that, and therefore, whenever I'm in trouble, I simply remember your promise, and I live based on that promise. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with that. Okay. Now, one other point I want to make is Draupadi is speaking like she's a sadhaka, but she's not a sadhaka. She's a pure devotee. Sometimes pure devotees come down to the level of sadhakas to basically illustrate certain points. It's like sometimes we talk about Uttam Adhikaris, the first class devotees, coming down to the Madhyam Adhikari level, second class devotees, in order to preach in the material world. Otherwise, Uttam Adhikaris will stay in Vrindavan or wherever and just in seclusion, do their japa and other devotional service. Okay, same kind of idea here. Okay, any questions or comments on that?
One question.
Yeah.
When devotees are feeling as though they're feeling upset or angry with Krishna, what is the proper way to handle that, given that obviously we're not Draupadi, who can be grateful, or Queen Kunti, who can ask for more trials and tribulations? Is it proper to communicate that anger to Krishna? Do we try to just swallow it? How do we deal?
Yeah, very good question, Radhavati. So just think of a person being angry with their father or mother. They can express their anger, but it's in a mood that's saying, I'm still your daughter, I'm still your son, but I'm upset about this or that, and I'm pouring my heart out. There's no sense of disrespect. There's no challenge. It's just, I'm upset, and I'm going to tell you I'm upset. As long as the mood is like that, it's fine. But if the mood becomes condescending, insulting, challenging, then that's not good. Then that's actually a big offense. So the mood has to be right. But you have every right to complain if you're upset. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, then let's keep going. Where are we? Yeah. So next paragraph.
Shall I read?
Please go ahead, bro. Bhajan, bro.
A similar statement is there in 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, verse 53, where Havi, the son of King Rasabha, addresses Maharaj Nimi, my dear king, a person who never deviates even for a moment from the engagement in the service at the lotus feet.
Can everybody else please mute yourself? There's too many dishes being washed. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, bro. Sorry.
My dear king, a person who never deviates even for a moment from the engagement in service at the lotus feet of the Supreme Person, engagement which is sought even by great demigods like Indra, with firm conviction that there is nothing more worshipable or desirable than this, is called the first class devotee.
Right. So again, this refers to previous paragraph where the mindset of Bhishma Pitama was being described, where he's thinking that, what's happening? Lord Krishna is supreme God. He is Pandava's friend and cousin. His Pandavas are very righteous people. Draupadi is such a wonderful devotee. Kunti is such a wonderful devotee. How come they're going through all these tribulations in life? He would sometimes cry. So same point is being made here, that yeah, that's true. But the reason that these devotees Pandavas, were able to do that was that they had this firm faith, firm conviction that no matter what, there's nobody more worshipable, more desirable than Krishna. And so not even for a moment, they would deviate from their engagement into the service, in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord, no matter what was happening. And that conviction never went away. Rakshishati iti vishwaso, Lord Chaitanya explains to Rupa Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of the 6 processes of surrender is that the devotee has firm, absolutely firm conviction that Krishna is my protector. No matter what, he will protect me under all situations. he has to break his promise, he'll break that and protect me. As Krishna illustrated more than once. So that's the saying is a first class devotee. Okay. Next paragraph will discuss more of this faith issue. So would you like to read somebody?
Prabhuji, I can do.
Please go ahead.
Sri Rupa Goswami says that a neophyte devotee who has simply developed a slight love of Godhead is certainly a prospective candidate for devotional service. When he becomes firmly fixed in such devotional service, that assured status become a confidential part of his devotional service.
Right. So here, basically, remember, we talked about Shraddha, which is the preliminary faith. We talked about Vishwas, which is mature faith. Or you could even call it Nishtha. So we all start with Shraddha, which is a simple faith, preliminary faith, which allows us to begin the engagement in devotional service. It's absolutely required before Krishna says, okay, you know what? I'm going to make a devotee available to you to help you. So the very famous verse that goes, Ado Shraddha, Tato Sadhu Sang, At Bhajana Kriya, right? It goes on, 9 different steps. So that's what we're talking about here. We all start with preliminary faith or a soft faith. And then as we engage in devotional service, our faith matures into Vishwas or strong faith. And that's what's basically being talked about here in this paragraph. The next paragraph will talk about the second type of friendship that we discussed, which is Mitra, which occurs at an advanced stage when a devotee begins to serve the deity in a mood of fraternity or equality, as we'll explain in this paragraph. So somebody wants to read the next paragraph?
I can do it, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. I can do
Hare
it.
Krishna, please go ahead. Yeah.
Sometimes it is found that pure devotee lies down in the temple of the Lord in order to serve him as a confidential friend. Such friendly behavior of devotee may be accepted as raganuga,
Raganuga.
or spontaneous. Although, according to regulative principles, no one can lie down in the temple of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This spontaneous love of Godhead may be grouped under devotional service and friendship.
Right. So now he's moved from sadhaka level. Can you please mute yourself?
Nandi Mukhi Mataji.
Ashra Prabhu, need your help.
Yes, I'm muted.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, so now in this paragraph, they're talking about pure devotees, where the Mitra, the complete faith, Vishwas, has occurred. So at that stage, no more rules and regulations apply. So as sadhakas, we cannot lie down in the temple room at the altar, but Premi Bhaktas, pure devotees can do, none of the rules apply. So that's a behavior that only a pure devotee, one who has spontaneous love for Krishna, one who's in a Raganuga platform, they can do it. We cannot do that. So don't even try to do that. Okay. So essentially,
What do you mean by Prabhu lie down?
so for example, you go to the temple, the altar, where Pujari is standing there doing arti. You can't go there and lie down on the altar.
Mm.
You say, Krishna, you're resting, I'll rest with you. You can't take some cashews from your pocket and say, Krishna, here, just for you. You can't do that. We can't do that. We are sadhaka level. We have to follow the rules and regulations, mantras and everything. We are neophytes. But a pure devotee can do that. And there are many examples. Where people take something out of their pocket and say, okay, Lord Chaitanya, you eat it. Krishna, you eat it. Or Krishna, here is Rasgulla, and they throw a flower in his mouth. No, so they can do that. We cannot do that. Okay.
At this Kalyug age, Prabhu, who is the devotee who can do that? Like Sudama did that, right? He brought the rice. But at this Kalyug age, who does that? Who can do that actually?
So again, if there's a pure devotee, and pure devotees, the problem is they don't advertise themselves. Nobody puts a stamp of PD, pure devotee, on the forehead and say, okay, hey, look at me, I'm pure devotee, this is what I do. So we know in theory what they do or they're allowed to do. But because we don't know people, at least because they don't demonstrate pure devotional service in front of other people, we don't know how they treat the Lord. But, in practice, we can talk about Srila Prabhupada. We can talk about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. They are examples of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. They are all examples of pure devotees. So Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, all the Goswamis. And they didn't have to follow all the rules. But we do.
So what about the Maharaj who comes here for the visit? Can they do that?
Well, you have to ask them. So
Okay.
we consider all gurus to be pure devotees. But you have to ask them whether they do this. They're not telling me that they do this. They won't tell you either. But ask them.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Anybody else? All right. Then let's go to the Atmanivedan, the surrendering everything to the Lord. Who would like to do that? Who wants to
I can
surrender
read.
everything?
I can read that, Prabhu.
Please do.
Surrendering everything to the Lord. Regarding complete self-surrender, there is a nice description in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 29th chapter, verse 34, where the Lord says, "A person who has completely surrendered unto me and has completely given up all other activities is protected by me personally, both in this life and in the next. In other words, I wish to help him become more and more advanced in spiritual life. Such a person is to be understood as having already achieved Shashti, having equal opulences with the Supreme. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that as soon as a person surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna, Krishna takes charge of him and gives him a guarantee of protection from all sinful reactions. He also instructs from within so that the devotee may very quickly make advancement towards spiritual perfection."
Right. So here, does anybody recognize the verse from Bhagavad Gita? What verse is that?
18.62, 65.
66, actually. Yeah.
66,
Sarvadhaman
yeah.
Parityajya.
66. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, Krishna is saying in Bhagavatam 11:29-34 that a completely surrendered person is protected by me personally. And I help him become more advanced in his spiritual life. So that's one point. Second point is, as is quoted by in 1866, Krishna also promises to protect the surrendered soul from all previous sinful reactions. So Krishna is making these very lofty promises to a person who's completely surrendered to him. Okay, let's move on to the next paragraph.
I can read that, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, Katwanga Prabhu.
Atmanivedana. According to the different authorities, self is differently defined. Self is sometimes considered to refer to the spirit self or soul, and self is sometimes considered to refer to the mind or to the body. Full self-surrender, therefore, means not only surrendering one's self as spirit soul, but also surrendering one's mind and body to the service of the Lord. Shri Bhakti Vinod Thakur has sung a nice song in this connection while offering himself as a fully surrendered soul. He said, "My mind, my household affairs, my body, wherever is in my possession, my dear Lord, I offer to you for your service. Now you can do with me as you like. You are the supreme possessor of everything. So if you like, you can kill me. If you like, you can give me protection. All authority belongs to you. I have nothing to claim as my own."
Jai. So this is a very, very famous bhajan written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Manas dehge je kichumora. Karilu arpunu tuis Nanda Kishora. So basically, the transition is here. That my mind, my body, my affairs, my home, my home, my body, whatever I have is yours. And you do whatever you like with that. You're the possessor anyway, but I'm just offering it to you in the mood of Todiyam Vastu Govindam Tubhimyo Samarpa. It's yours to start with, but I'm just offering it to you with my love. And everything belongs to you, including all the authority. I have nothing that I can claim as my own. But whatever I have is yours. And that is Atmanivedan, that's saying everything that belongs to me. And once again, Atma, the word Atma, which is self, it can be the body, it can be the mind, or it can be the soul. Sometimes can be all three. So Atmanivedan means surrendering your body, mind, and soul. In other words, I have no desire other than yours. I have no activity to do other than to please you or to serve you. I have no thoughts in my mind. I have no desires in my mind. I have no willingness to do anything that is not directly related to serving you. And that is Atmanivedan, full, complete surrender. Okay. Any questions on that? This is a very important point. So if you have questions, do not hesitate.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So
Ah.
for Prabhupada also, Prabhuji, when he came to the USA, like he also wrote a like Nachao Nachao, because I came in a place where it's full of Maya.
Correct.
You make me like you make me dance or whatever you like. So he was also fully surrendered to
Correct.
Lord Krishna.
Absolutely correct. Yes, absolutely
Yeah.
correct.
That's one of my favorite statements of Prabhupada's.
Yes, it
Make
is.
me dance, make me dance.
Make me
If you
dance.
want. Yeah.
That's very true. Very good. Yes. That shows the surrendered mood of Srila Prabhupada. Absolutely. Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right, then let's move on to the next paragraph.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Please go ahead. Yes.
Sri Yamuna Acharya, in his prayers to the Lord, has expressed a similar idea in the following words. My dear Lord, I may be living within some body as a human being or as a demigod, but whatever mode of life, I do not mind, because these bodies are simply byproducts of the three modes of material nature, and I, who am in the possession of these bodies, am surrendering myself unto you.
Right. So here, the word Atma is being used in the sense of the soul itself, the soul that possesses the body. So he's saying, I may be living, so the soul, may be living in any kind of body, whether it's human body or demigod body, but it's yours. I'm surrendering my attachment to my body to you. And therefore, it doesn't matter to me whether you give me human body, animal body, demigod body. That's not even the issue for me. It doesn't matter. My soul is surrendered to you. I'm basically saying my soul and body have nothing to do with each other. It's just a case. Okay? So you can't do that unless you surrender to the Lord. All right, this is the next one.
I can do, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead.
In the Hari Bhakti Viveka, there is a statement regarding how one can offer his body in self-surrender. There, the devotee says, my dear Lord, as a soul animal has no need to think about his maintenance and sustenance. So because I have given up my body and soul unto you, I am no longer concerned with my maintenance and sustenance. In other words, one should not bother about his personal or family maintenance or sustenance. If one is actually surrendered in body and soul, he should always remember that his only concern is to be engaged in the service of the Lord.
Right. Now, this is heavy. This is heavy and very high level. So let's do this little slowly. Here, the devotee is saying, I am like a sold animal. Now, what's the significance of that term? What's a sold animal? What are the characteristics of a sold animal?
Like the owner can do anything with that animal.
Correct. Exactly right, Prabhu. The owner has every right to that animal. Can kill it, can feed it, can beat it, whatever they want. They can do it. They can ask them to do any task. So here the devotee is saying, I'm like a soul animal, my Lord. Therefore, I don't have to worry about anything. You do whatever you want. If you wish to feed me, give me food. If you don't wish to feed me, that's fine. I don't have to worry about my own maintenance or sustenance. You are now going to worry about it because I have given up my body and soul to you. I'm no longer concerned with my maintenance and sustenance. Now, can anybody who's not totally surrendered do that? Like,
No,
you know,
please.
sometimes we say, the Bhagwan dega chappar phal ke dega. When Krishna wants to give it, he'll find a way to give you whatever it is. We have stories about pure devotees, like Jayadev, for example, where they said, I'm not going to do any work. Let Krishna supply. The wife gets upset, children start crying because there's no food to eat. And they said, no, Krishna is going to give. And the quote 922, which is what? Yog Shemam Bahamyam. Shamniti Abhuktanam Yog Shemam Bahamyam. Krishna says, I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. But how many of us have that faith? We talk about this. We want to believe that. But how many of us will like to sit down and say, okay, I'm not going to do anything. Let Krishna supply. But if you're surrendered completely with soul, our soul surrendered, then we can do that. And then Krishna will. There's so many examples of that. Krishna has gone out of his way to provide for the devotees. So many Lord Jagannath stories, Krishna stories, so many other stories. So Krishna will provide, but we have to have that faith. We're lacking that faith, even though we've been devotees for a long time, lacking that faith. But pure devotee says, no, it's your problem now, it's not my problem. I'm not my problem anymore. I'm your problem. You take care of me. And I know that you will. All I have to do is stay engaged in your service, my Lord. The rest is yours. Your headache, not my headache. Okay. Are there any questions or comments on that? Because again, it's one of the most important points in the whole book.
I had one comment.
Yeah, well, Rajan, go ahead.
As you were saying, like, the more we hear from pure devotees, the more we hear about the glories of Lord and the importance of surrender, the more we tend to get inclined and then try to practice it out. Even though we know deep down that it will take maybe millions of years, but for a momentarily, that feeling comes that, okay, it should be done, and probably at an instant, for a fleeting moment, it might also come. But then to have that, but as soon as the association drops, we feel that we are dropping down to our natural state.
Correct.
So I feel that it's like this might be a very mundane example, but
no, it's not. It's not. It's not. What the point you're making is an excellent point, and we should all actually meditate upon what Rajan Prabhu is saying. So look at it this way: whose association do we have which is constant? And the answer is Maya. Devotee association is temporary. First of all, most of our friends are not pure devotees. But let's just say devotees, but even their association is temporary. Maybe for an hour or 2 or 3, maybe a whole day, some special day, but that's about it. So clearly, there are two opposing forces. Oh, listen, did you finish asking a question? I'm sorry, did I interrupt you?
No, Prabhuji. Please go.
But did I interrupt you, or did you finish your question?
No.
Okay.
No, it was the same thing. Like,
okay, all right. So therefore, the mood that you're talking about, that we get when we hear pure devotee, or we hear a class, is temporary because the other opposing force is constantly there. And therefore, Maya brings us back to what you call our steady state or whatever. And we forget our faith again, because weaker, slacker, and we're back to where we started. This is why Lord Chaitanya recommends that we have to be in devotee association all the time. Because then that force is with us all the time. Otherwise, the Maya's force is there all the time. It just drags us away from that. So therefore, you get temporary moods. In other words, temporarily for maybe a second, maybe 10 seconds, maybe a minute, maybe an hour, you get all this mood. Yes, I'm totally surrendered. I'll do anything for Krishna and japa and whatever service we're doing, we do very nicely. Then the mood goes away. Sometimes we hear nice kirtan and we actually get goosebumps, but then it goes away. Sometimes we do get teary-eyed, but then it goes away. It's not sthayi, it's not permanent. So that's what we're working on. But the longer association we can have with the devotees, the more we can read Prabhupada books, the more deity worship we can do, the more we can chant, that duration for which that mood is there will increase. It also comes with the process of Chetutapan Marjana, which is the cleansing of the consciousness. But that's the process we're involved in. And it's a slow process because Maya is still acting on us and we're letting it act upon us. So forgive me if I interrupted your question, if I didn't answer your question.
No, Prabhu. Yeah. So, and just one point again, which I wanted to add is, it also signifies the strength of pure devotee, that his association pulls away the strongest force in our life, which is Maya, with such ease. And if only we are willing to sort of surrender initially, and then basically we don't have any, just have a right attitude, inclination, and just have a good association of such a devotee, it's like flowing along with the stream rather than against the stream. That's such is his strength.
Well, so unfortunately, we are going against the stream, and that's why we need other help. So the eagerness to serve, the desire to serve, the devotee association, the support of the scriptures and other devotees, deity worship, staying in the dham and maintaining that consciousness. These are the forces that act against the Maya, and they keep you in line, and eventually they'll pull you out. But we have to do that constantly. Our problem is we don't take our problem seriously. That's our problem. The main problem that we have, which is that repeated birth and death, we don't take that seriously. We think, what, who cares? It'll happen. The day we start taking it very seriously, saying, no, I don't want this anymore. This is a crisis. I want this to be my last birth. The whole attitude will change. But we're not serious about that. We're just too casual about devotional service. We're too casual about the main problem of life, which is life and death. And therefore, we don't get that permanent feeling. We let Maya win every time and easily.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Did they address your point, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Very much.
Okay, good. Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay, then let's move on. What was any other point I want to make? Oh, so before we move to the next point, anybody wants to give an example of Atma Nivedan? Any devotees that we are famous for that?
Bali Maharaj.
Bali Maharaj, absolutely. Who else? Anybody else?
I forgot the name. The elephant.
Gajendra?
Gajendra.
Well, he did. Yeah, he did in a way. Ambarish Maharaj. Rukmani Devi, Rukmani Mataji, the wife, totally surrendered.
Draupadi also.
Sorry?
Draupadi.
Draupadi, yeah, absolutely.
Surrendered.
Yeah, totally surrendered. Totally.
Hiranyakashipu.
Sorry?
Hiranyakashipu.
Hiranyakashipu.
Sorry, not Hiranyakashipu. Prahlad Maharaj.
Prahlad was surrendered, yeah, but he's known for something different, right? He's known for remembering the Lord. So, I mean, anyway, so good examples. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is offering a favorite article.
No, probably last paragraph remaining still.
Oh, I didn't do
Says-
that? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I missed it.
Srila Rupa Goswami says that devotional service in friendship and devotional service in self-surrender are two difficult processes. Therefore, such relationship with the Lord can very rarely be seen. Only for the advanced devotees are these two processes easily executed. The purport is that it is very rare to see surrender which is mixed with sincere ecstatic devotion. One must give himself completely to the will of the Lord.
Yeah, thank you for pointing out, Prabhu. This is a very important point that I almost missed. Yeah, so again, these two things that we talked about, friendship and total surrender, is not easy. They are very, very difficult. Even Rupa Goswami is acknowledging that it's very difficult. And that's why it's very rarely seen. Remember, one of the 6 characteristics of pure devotional service is that it's very rare. Only very advanced devotees can do that. And that's why we took the examples of these very advanced devotees. So, but if we can get there, then that we can be surrendered, and surrender basically means giving yourself completely to the will of the Lord. That's the last line of this paragraph. In other words, whatever you want, Lord, that's what I want. Whichever way you want to handle me, go ahead. Again, Bhakti Vinod Thakur's bhajan, Manas deh ge je kichu mora, sab kuch arpilu tuya Nanda Kishora. And then, he goes on to say, do whatever you want with me, with my house, my family, whatever. It's all yours. And then I'm dependent upon you. And that's when Krishna says, you dependent upon me, now I'm dependent upon you. And that's when the beautiful reciprocal relationship starts. Okay. Thank you, Bhajan Prabhu. All right. So let's move to offering a favorite article.
I'll read it, Prabhuji.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th chapter, verse 41, Lord Krishna tells Uddhava, my dear friend, if someone offers me the best thing in his possession or anything which is very pleasing to him, he will be eternally benefited.
Yeah. This chapter is really amazing. Another very good point being made. It says, give me the thing that you love most, and I'll give you eternal benefit. Best thing in your position, the thing that you love most, the thing that gives you a lot of pleasure, give that to me, and I'll give you eternal benefit. Because people play games with Krishna. Sometimes people give in charity something that they don't want. And I have, with my own eyes, seen example of some grocery stores. They give vegetables to the temple. And you look at the box, it's all rotting or really low quality food. Sometimes people have tried to donate a sick cow to a temple in Vrindavan because they don't want to take care of it. They're not capable of taking care of it. Okay, temple, you take care of it. That is not devotional service. That's not charity either. Right? There's a funny story about a Brahmin. He was eating puffed rice, murmure or laya, whatever word you use for that, puffed rice, and walking. And suddenly there was a sudden breeze, a wind, that, as soon as he was trying to put it in his mouth, it blew it away from his hand. So now all this murmure were in the air because they were light, puffed rice, right? So he looked at it almost in shock. And then, being a very smart person, he said, Shri Krishnam Arapanastu. He says, my dear Lord, this is for you. Well, you're not fooling Krishna by doing that. And there's another story, this true story also. Some devotees from Gujarat told me that they used to go to a businessman every week. Every Sunday, they'll go to his shop. He was a big businessman, not just a shop owner, like factory owner. And they'll give him a garland, they'll give him prasadam. He take all that, be very nice to them, but never donate anything. Not a single rupee. But they kept doing it for months, maybe more than a year, they kept doing it. One day they came and they gave him. And then this time they said, can you give us some donation? I said, I already gave last week. Oh, you did? We didn't know that. Then they started talking, and it turned out that his factory burned down completely. I said, oh, Krishna took it. So that's my donation to Krishna. Well, once again, that's not what Krishna is talking about. Give me something that's best thing in your position, right? Another example I was thinking about was actually this happened in my presence. I was in Lucknow at a puja bhandar, where they sell paraphernalia for deity worship. And this was at a slightly lower level than the street. And one woman came, obviously a very rich woman. And right from the street, she shouted at the storekeeper, can you give me this thing, that thing, that thing? And before he could react, she said, and give me the cheap ones because it's only for Krishna. And I'm saying, what? You want the cheap thing only for Krishna? And you are a very rich person? Well, that's not what Krishna is talking about here. That's not what it means, something that's very dear to you, that's very pleasing to you. And then the positive example is, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, when he was 5 years old, he ate a mango without offering it. His father said, no, you don't do that. And from that point on, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will offer mangoes to Krishna, but he'll never eat. Many times people asked him and said, no, I made a big mistake once. I never do that again. So my point of this paragraph is that, yes, give what's most dear to you, but don't play games with Krishna. Krishna says, I am the cheater among the cheaters. So you try to cheat Krishna, he's a bigger cheater than you. He'll take everything away. He'll cheat you like you can't believe. So don't try to cheat Krishna. Just follow what's being said in all honesty. Sincerity is very important. Okay, any questions or comments on that?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So like you are giving an example so we should offer the best fruit or whatever, best bhoga. But here it said like you love most, maybe you love your should be offered to Lord Krishna, like you love your children or you love your mother, father. So what is if you can give any example? These are some of the whatever like the bhoga, like fruits or donation, or is it the example, or you can give some best you love in your life, like you are addicted to that in a manjan way. Like
well, it could be anything. Like it would be difficult to offer your parents, but there are examples of people offering their son. For example, even Lord Nityanand, when the devotee came, he asked, and Hari Pandit, okay, take my son. Right? And there's another example I was thinking about. Many people I know who have given up their jobs.
Okay. Yeah.
I know some people who have given up their husband,
right,
their wife, or their family. So there are many, many examples like that.
Yeah, they left their wealth and gone to the path of the bhakti.
Yeah,
Okay.
their factory, their whatever.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Okay. Anything else? All right. So let's do the next one. Performing all endeavors for Krishna.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Go ahead.
Performing all endeavors for Krishna. In the Narad Pancharatra, there is a statement of how one can act in all spheres of life for the satisfaction of the Lord. It is stated there that a person who is actually in devotional service must be engaged in all kinds of activities those prescribed in the revealed scripture and also those that are accepted for livelihood. In other words, not only should a devotee engage himself in the prescribed duty of devotional service that are mentioned in revealed scripture, but he should also perform the duty of his practical life in Krishna consciousness. For example, a devotee who has a great establishment or a factory may offer the fruits of such material possession for the service of the Lord.
Right. This is very close to what Radha Bhakti was asking earlier. And so here is one answer. This is not the pure devotional service answer, because talking about offering the results or the fruits of such a material possession, but it could also be, Yukta Vairagya, as I was talking about before. Okay, let's see if there's anything else. The point, I guess, being made is that being a devotee doesn't mean that you give up your family life. It doesn't mean that you give up city life. It doesn't mean that, you give up anything else. It just means that you know what your priorities are. You know that Krishna is always in the center and everything is with the purpose of pleasing Krishna. Okay. So either as a direct service or as offering the fruits of the results of service, we can still be devotee. But again, the distinction between devotee and pure devotee is still there, as we discussed earlier in the class today. Okay. The principle of, sorry, I just want to say the principle of Anukula and Krishnanushilanam always applies no matter what you're doing. So in other words, you can have business, but you cannot have like liquor business or meat selling business or things like that. Okay, go ahead.
Can I, Pitashri?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, being a surrender souls. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, there is the following statement about self-surrender. My dear Lord, a person who has surrendered himself unto you, who is in firm conviction that he is yours, and who actually act in that way by his body, mind, and words, can actually release transcendental bliss. In the Narsimha Puran, Lord Narsimha...
I'm sorry, go ahead, finish it. Go ahead, finish it.
In the Narsimha Puran, Lord Narsimha Dev says, anyone who prays unto me and takes shelter of me becomes my words, and I perfect him always from all sort of calamities.
Okay, thank you. So here the heading is being a surrendered soul. So what does it mean to be surrendered soul? So here it's being described that a person who has this firm conviction that, my Lord, I am yours. So remember earlier we were talking about, I'm like a soul animal, do whatever you want with me. Same idea. And actually not just saying it, but acting it. In other words, my body, my mind, my speech, they're all for you. And only that person can actually taste the transcendental bliss. Like we all talk about transcendental bliss, but we have no idea what it tastes like. Or maybe I should say that. Maybe I should ask one of you. Anybody wants to tell me what it tastes like? A transcendental bliss? Who has experienced it? Raise your hand. Okay, so we all have same problem, right? We don't know what it tastes like. So it's being described that only when we get to a point where we say, Krishna, I'm yours. Now remember, pure devotees of a different kind, they say, Krishna, you're mine. Right? Here we're talking about a lower level, which says, Krishna, I'm yours. But that's the minimum stage to be in order to be able to relish the transcendental bliss. Otherwise, we have no idea. We don't know what it tastes like. Okay. Now, Lord Nrsimhadev basically confirms the point that if you take shelter of me, I'll be there to protect you from all kinds of calamities. So in other words, surrender has two aspects, protection and shelter. So Krishna is saying, Lord Nrsimhadev is saying, I'll give you protection and I'll give you shelter. Okay, now, there is a subtle difference between Atmanivedan, which is surrendering everything to the Lord, and being a surrendered soul. So I will say this again. There's a distinction between Atmanivedana, which talked about, which is surrendering everything to the Lord, and what we're talking about now is being a surrendered soul. So being a surrendered soul means to consider ourselves to be completely subservient to the Lord and being totally protected by the Lord. In other words, the devotee who's surrendered soul considers God, Krishna, to be his protector. On the other hand, surrendering everything to Krishna means total dedication of whatever we have to Krishna, with or without the feeling of subservience and dependence. Should I repeat that? Because I'm not sure I made it clear. So, surrendering everything to Krishna doesn't necessarily mean that we're feeling subservient or dependent upon Krishna. And the example is Bali Maharaj. He surrendered everything to Lord Vamandev, but he wasn't necessarily feeling subservient at that time. He wasn't necessarily feeling dependent upon Krishna. He just said, yeah, whatever I have is yours. Okay, is that clear or did I confuse the whole thing?
No, Prabhuji, it's clear.
Okay, good. All right, then in that case, let's move on. Serving trees such as Tulsi. Some people have not spoken at all today, so please, if you've not spoken today, please read.
Can I do that, Prabhuji?
Yeah, Mansi Ganga, please go ahead. Yeah.
Can you hear me, Prabhuji? Because I think my internet is
Sure.
like
Serving
keep going.
trees, that's page 99. Serving trees.
In the
such as Tulsi.
Skanda Purana, there is a statement praising the Tulasi tree as follows. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Tulsi tree, which can immediately vanquish all.
We lost you, Mansi Ganga.
Oh, sorry, Prabhuji. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes. Can you please just restart, please?
Sure. In the Skanda Purana, there is a statement praising the Tulasi tree as follows. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Tulasi tree, which can immediately vanquish volumes of sinful activities. Simply by seeing or touching this tree, one can become relieved from all distress and diseases. Simply by offering obeisances to and pouring water on the Tulasi tree, one can become freed from the fear of being sent to the court of Yamaraj, the king of death, who punishes the sinful. If someone saws a Tulsi tree somewhere, certainly he becomes devoted to Lord Krishna. And when the Tulasi leaves are offered in devotion at the lotus feet of Krishna, there is the full development of love of Godhead. In India, all Hindus, even those not belonging to Vaishnava group, take special care of Tulasi tree. Even in great cities where it is difficult to keep Tulasi tree, people are to be found very carefully keeping this plant. They water it and offer obeisances to it because worship of Tulasi tree is very important in devotional service. In the Skanda Purana, there is another statement about Tulasi as follows. Tulasi is auspicious in all respects. Simply by seeing, simply by touching, simply by remembering, simply by praying to, simply by bowing before, simply by hearing about, or simply by sowing this tree, there is always auspiciousness. Anyone who comes in touch with the Tulsi tree in the above mentioned ways lives eternally in a Vaikuntha world.
Right. So actually, there's a very famous Tulsi prayers that we sing every morning. It goes something like Namo Namo Tulsi Maharani Vande Maharani. Namo Namo Maya Namo Maharani. Chako Darash Parash Agnashan. Mahima Ved Puran Bakhani. And it goes on from there. Basically, it means what's being written here in terms of simply by seeing or touching the tree, one can be relieved of all distresses and diseases. Simply by offering obeisances and pouring water, one can become freed from fear of being in front of Yamaraj. Sowing Tulsi tree becomes a devotee of the Lord, and so on and so forth. Right? And we know that Lord Krishna does not accept anything unless offered with Tulsi. So this whole bunch of things. So touching, seeing, offering obeisances, offering water, sowing Tulsi tree, they're all very, very auspicious activities, and they lead us to become devotees. The bhajan basically is a prayer to Tulsi Maharani to give us an opportunity to become a devotee of the Lord, and she has the power to do that. She, by offering Tulsi leaves to the Lord, to the lotus feet of the Lord, we can actually develop full or complete love for Krishna in our heart. There's a very famous story. I'm trying to remember what was going on. I can't remember the beginning of the story, but basically for some reason, the offer was that the queens of Krishna will give in charity gold worth the weight of Lord. So they took a balance, and Krishna sat on one side. They started putting all this gold and all that on the other side. And no matter how much they put, Krishna's side was still heavier. And they basically ran out of everything they could think of to put, and it still was heavier. So Narad Muni came and said, what's the problem? So the queens explained their problem, that they wanted to donate and give in charity all these things equal to the weight of Lord Krishna, but he's still heavier than everything we have. So then Narad Muni said, put a Tulsi leaf on your side. So they took a Tulsi leaf, put it on the side, and suddenly balance was obtained. So Tulsi Maharani is very, very dear to Krishna. There are all sorts of stories about Tulsi Maharani and her significance. And actually, I was tempted to ask you if you want a session completely dedicated to the glories of Tulsi Maharani, either now or after we finish Nectar of Devotion. So, or no, so basically, what's the desire of my masters on this call?
Desire is good, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
I feel the same.
Prabhuji, we can
Sure,
go for
Prabhuji.
that.
So do you want to do that in the next class or after we finish the 19 chapters?
Next
After
class
this-
is good, Prabhu.
Next class.
Okay.
Prabhuji,
All right.
after-
Prabhuji, I will not be there.
Why? Where are you going?
I will not be there because I'm traveling.
Okay. So but you're traveling on Wednesday, right? This is Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, you might be tired, but
Okay.
but this will be here. Right?
Okay.
I mean, otherwise we
will-
can postpone it by 1 week and do it week after. It doesn't matter.
Good, Prabhuji.
Huh?
Week after is good.
Week
We
after
also
is
will be here.
Okay, so week after is fine. We can do that.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank
Just-
you very much.
Sure, no problem. Okay, so that's the end of the chapter. Any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have a question. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
So, because we are in Canada, like it says, Lord Krishna doesn't accept anything without a tulsi leaf. But most of the time, or sometime, we don't have the tulsi to offer. So, if you mentally we offer tulsi in the plate of food, is it okay? That's fine. Or
If it's really the case that you cannot get tulsi leaves anywhere, then it's okay. Now, if you practically have a problem, let me know. I can give you some dry tulsi leaves, and then at least you have tulsi leaves to offer. I could probably even arrange to get you a tulsi plant if you're interested.
Yeah, I have now. I mean, in during winter, sometimes it
Yeah, I
doesn't.
know.
Yeah,
I know. She
I
leaves.
will keep.
But if you want dry tulsi leaves, I can definitely supply that.
Okay. Well, usually so it's good to keep the tulsi leaf and keep it dry and keep
That's
it
what
for
we
the
do.
winter.
We
Okay,
always
okay,
we have a jar of dry tulsi leaves always.
got it,
So
got
in
it.
case our tulsi vana leaves, we at least have that.
Okay, sure. I'll do that. I'll keep enough for the winter then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So let me know if you need them now.
sure.
Otherwise, yeah. Or anybody on the call, if you need it, let me know.
Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
You're
Prabhuji, also one more thing in the purport, in the over there, it was like it's saying by seeing the tulsi, then you are planting our all distress, everything will go away. But thing is that it depends on the faith, whether we have firm faith or not, isn't it? If we don't, it doesn't.
Everything depends upon faith, upon your
Yeah.
sincerity, upon your purity, because they also say you take Krishna's name once and you go to Vrindavan.
Yeah, true.
But I have been doing it for many years. I haven't gone there yet. So because the sincerity is lacking, purity is lacking.
Yeah.
So the feelings are lacking.
Mhm.
So that's the issue. The issue is us.
Yeah,
not them.
yeah, we have. Yeah, got it. Right. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure. Anybody else?
Have a
Huh.
plant of tulsi at home.
Sorry, bro?
He can have a tulsi plant at home.
Yeah, that's what I was asking him. He said that
leaves.
he has them, but in the winter sometimes they leave. So
Yeah,
when they
during
leave,
winter it die off, or normally summertime it's okay. Yeah.
when Tulsi
Okay,
Vana leaves, he needs the leaves. Okay. Somebody's asking, can you offer the dried stem? No, actually, you can't do that. You can't offer dry stem. Dried leaves is fine. And once again, if you have an issue, let me know. I can make arrangements for you to get dry leaves or the Tulsi plant for that matter. So let me know. But yeah, it needs to be leaves.
Prabhu, I was given a stem by the Rohita Prabhu. And he said in the, olden days, people, like Yogi and all, they don't find often the Tulsi plant. So they used to keep the branch and offer it and wash it. And he gave me 2 branches, small pieces. And he said, you can offer it, wash it and keep it back.
Did he say you have to be a yogi to do that?
Like he said that where the Tulsi is not available, they do that there too, like that. So he said,
Okay,
if you often you don't have Tulsi or the leaves available, you can do that with the branches. So like keep one branch.
So I have to be honest with you, I have never heard that. But Rohita Prabhu is a Prabhupada disciple and he's in Vancouver taking care of Tulsis. They were amazing Tulsi garden. They're probably the best I've ever seen anywhere. So I won't argue, but I have never heard that. But by all means, if he said that to you, go ahead and do that.
He gave me, specifically, he gave me 2 small, dandiya.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine then. I mean, he knows better. So go by what he's telling you. Personally, I've never heard that.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Sure, you're welcome. Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Some people have been very quiet today, but that's okay. Anything else?
We were late, Prabhuji, to join because Wi-Fi was down.
Oh no, Wi-Fi was down?
We have no internet since 2 o'clock.
Oh, is that right?
Until 1 o'clock midnight, there's no internet.
So where are you calling from then?
From home, Harish made some arrangement.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
Technical expert.
Yes, of course. Of course. Well, it's good to have one.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Any other comments or questions? All right then. Thank you very much, everyone. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpaturbhyascha Nitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone.
sir.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Pitashri.
Hare Krishna, Nandimukhi.
Thank you, Pitashri.
Take care.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.